Sociopaths make up an estimated 1% of the population, and it's no coincidence that many of the top professions where you find sociopaths are strategy intensive. They excel in environments where they can devise a plan, see it through, and not get bogged down by the emotional turbulence that might derail others, just like in options trading. Now, before we go any further in this video, I'm gonna slap a massive disclaimer on this. I'm not advocating for you to take up sociopathic tendencies. We're not aiming to join the dark side or start a club for morally challenged traders. Instead, I want you to think of this as cherry picking some traits that can help you improve your own trading. But let's talk about the S word, shall we? Sociopath. So the word sociopath has a certain reputation. It's really like the red flag of personality labels, but the term is actually full of stigma and a lot of misunderstandings. You see, society tends to think of sociopaths as the card-carrying members of the evil club, but there's a lot more to it. So let's just try for the next minute to throw away that sinister image of a sociopath out of the window, because it's just some BS Hollywood brainwashing anyway. For instance, unlike what most people think, sociopaths are not emotionless robots. They just operate on a more reduced spectrum of feelings and emotions. But this trait and many others commonly found in sociopaths are actually beneficial in many facets of life, especially those parts of life that require a calm head and strategic thinking. So it's really no wonder why so many CEOs, lawyers, and even surgeons have a higher rate of individuals who possess sociopathic traits. And here's the truth we're going to cover in this video. We can observe, borrow, and ethically apply many of these traits to our own trading strategies. Furthermore, we can benefit without inheriting the darker impulses commonly associated with some of the sociopathic characters that Hollywood loves to exaggerate. Emotional detachment is first up, and this is probably the top dog on our sociopathic traits wish list. This hallmark feature of sociopathy is emotional detachment. It's an invaluable part of the sociopath's genetic makeup, and while it makes others feel uncomfortable, honestly, it's extremely useful. Let me explain. So if you've ever seen your friends plastered while you've stayed sober, it's not hard to imagine, because if you compare that annoying, drunken chaos to the ones you make in your trading decisions, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, especially if you haven't developed emotional resilience yet. Emotions are like those drunk friends, screaming directions, grabbing the wheel, and plastering you with, "Where are we going next?" The difference, when it comes to the markets, you typically only notice the mess they've made after they've wrecked your trades, which sucks, right? But guess what? You have to learn to maneuver through the markets without letting emotions wreck your sanity. This is where sociopath's emotional detachment trait looks extremely seductive to the rest of us. It's easier said than done though, and you can't just off your drunk friends like Hannibal Lecter might do. Similarly, you can't just turn off your emotions overnight, and you shouldn't expect to force emotional resiliency into existence. Mastering your emotions takes time, but what does it look like when you're not a slave to your own emotions? It looks pretty good. It looks like sticking to your battle-tested plan, dealing with precision, walking away when the odds don't stack up. It looks like keeping a clear head and allowing the outcomes to unfold naturally. I want you to think of a casino dealer who maintains a steady demeanor, unaffected by wins or losses, dealing the cards systematically at the blackjack table. Just like that, trading successfully is about operating a well-devised plan consistently, rather than seeking emotional highs and lows. Now, there's no room for wishful thinking in trading either, but let's be clear, it's not about becoming heartless, it's about gaining control. So how can you realistically set your expectations and implement emotional detachment in your own trading? Know thyself. Or in other words, you want to develop self-awareness. Take a long, hard look in the mirror. Understand your own emotional triggers, biases, and tendencies. Then identify your emotions. Be completely honest about how different market situations make you feel. Are you prone to panic during a downturn? Do you become overly excited during a rally? Recognize your emotional responses and reflect on those mistakes. I want you to analyze what went wrong and how your emotions influenced your decisions. If you're a part of a community of other traders, or even if you have someone that knows you very well, ask them for feedback. And finally, practice patience, because again, emotional impulses aren't something that we can turn off overnight. It's going to take time. There's something oddly comforting in the way a sociopath meticulously weighs risks against rewards. It's almost like an art form. They aren't impulsively tumbling down rabbit holes. They're cautiously, almost surgically, making moves based on calculated risks. When you find a risk management strategy that works for you, hold on to it like it's your lifeline. Now again, something we should mention. It's easy to get swept up in the pop culture sociopathic depictions in movies. Strategic, smooth, seemingly infallible. But life's much more complex than that. Not every sociopath is orchestrating grandiose heists or complex schemes. Many are just good at managing risks, making logical choices with freedom from emotional baggage. But if you look inside the US prison population, you'll still find plenty of low IQ sociopaths. Similarly, traders can range from those who are still finding their footing to market virtuosos. And then you have the Wall Street Bets poster boys, the Darwin Award winners with the account histories that scream reckless stupidity. Ultimately, what traders in sociopaths share is the need for a solid risk management system, a common thread that holds true across the spectrum of experience and intelligence. Because after all, it's about survival of the fittest, but also the wisest. And let's be real, it's simply not true that you need to be a Wall Street wizard to succeed. But the truth is, more often than not, it's not about brilliance, but rather discipline. And who embodies discipline better than a high-performing sociopath or a high-performing trader? Their shared strength is managing risks without an emotional attachment. If you want to be a successful trader, you have got to keep your risks steady. Similar to how a high-scoring sociopath is able to keep their emotional responses flatline. Let's break it down into specifics. Your losses have to be contained. The minute you deviate from your plan, you've let yourself cross a line, and you don't want to do that. You want to be in control, just like how a sociopathic CEO is in control of their social interactions at all times. Keep your max loss set and don't go crossing the line no matter what. So what does it look like when you're crossing the line? Let's say you take a trade, you lose $100. It's not great, but it's not the end of the world. So you take another and you lose another $100. It's still manageable according to your risk management plan, but then you get a little reckless and you start to revenge trade. You're in a trade and your stop loss is triggered, but you didn't sell. Maybe you're just hopeful, or maybe you're just stubborn. Either way, you're not being coldly logical like the perfect sociopath would be. You end up losing $200 or $300 instead of the $100 that you planned to lose. That's your emotions messing you up right there. And now we've got a problem. You just threw your entire risk management system off balance. It's like a sociopath CEO who, when angry and overworked, publicly displays his lack of empathy. It messes up the whole system, and potentially it can cause irreversible damages. And keep in mind, it's not just when you're in the red either. It can happen when you're making profits. For example, you've got a trade in the green in profits, but instead of cashing out, you get greedy. You think that you'll make more, and guess what? Sometimes you won't. You don't follow your plan, you deviate, and that's how you can mess up. The sociopath doesn't get greedy in the situation because they know that if they stick to their plan, it serves their best interests. So you can see it, right? How risk management and emotional detachment are your pillars for success in options trading. If a sociopath with their calculated detachment can navigate life's complexities, then you as a trader can certainly navigate the markets by learning their ways. Now, risk management can't happen without planning. So let's talk about Hollywood for a second. When you think of the character Dexter, what exactly do you think of? For me, it's all about Harry's Code. And if you've never seen the show, it's about a serial killer who targets those who kill innocent people. And while he was clearly born with sociopathic tendencies, the way he goes about his mission isn't something that he was born with. He learns Harry's Code from his father, and the code is, in essence, an overall strategy that he both learned and developed. And if you've watched the show, you know that when Dexter deviates from the code, bad stuff tends to happen. Harry's Code is Dexter's strategy. It's about risk management, it's about process, and it's about keeping an edge. You know what's not an edge? A gut instinct that's right 9 out of 10 times. And it's not a magic indicator combo that's going to lead to guaranteed profits. So what is your edge? In the trading game, you definitely need one. In the same way that Dexter leverages his strategy and skills, like in hiding in plain sight and manipulating situations, you've got to put your unique edge to work in the markets. Make it the foundation of your strategy. Now, Dexter doesn't jump into taking out a bad guy immediately. No. What he starts with is research. He studies his target's behaviors, he understands their MO, he sniffs out their weakness, and he does all of this with obsessive focus. You should be doing the same thing with the markets. This means learning proven strategies instead of chasing the next alert. Or maybe for you, it means not running from one strategy to another every single week. And it definitely means putting more screen time in to develop a second nature of a seasoned trader. Then what's next? Well, in the show, Dexter starts small. When he starts to learn Harry's Code, he practices with low stakes. That's how Harry taught him, because practicing when the stakes were low got Dexter ready for the big leagues of disappearing people into tiny pieces. So maybe you should also test your ideas in a controlled arena. Now I know exactly what you're thinking. Paper trading sucks. And we can definitely argue that paper trading isn't going to get you fully ready for when the stakes are real. But what it can do is help you before you go in for the kill. And if you're not brand new, but you're brand new to a new ticker or overall strategy, then you probably want to ease into your new plan. This lets you adjust and fine tune before you scale up and risk too much of your own bankroll. And when it comes to risk, you know what I preach. Keep your losses small. Just like Dexter has backup plans and escape routes before he kidnaps a bad guy. In your trading, this translates into having a defined stop loss, diversifying strategies, and maybe even options that hedge against primary positions. This is what I call the if-then plan. If X happens, then I will do this. At the end of the day, a clearly defined strategy is the linchpin for success. This isn't about short-lived thrills or taking wild risks, but it's all about constructing a trading system and an overall strategy, specifically one that is skewed in your favor over a significant period of time. Now, hopefully this video was helpful in some way. I want you to remember that in both sociology and options trading, it's not the individual instances, but the long-term strategies that ultimately dictate your level of success. Just like a sociopath who is always playing the long game to make it to the top, your approach to options trading must embody a relentless focus on long-term, consistent success.